Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a fresh, honest, and maybe just a little bit humorous look at a plant you've almost certainly seen around town, whether you realized it or not. We're diving right into a gardening diary entry from July 2026 to evaluate a massive landscaping staple, the Mexican Petunia. You know, there was a point not too long ago when plant nurseries and garden centers were just absolutely flooded with the Mexican Petunia. I mean, scientifically known as ruellia-simplex, it was quite literally everywhere you looked. But seeing a plant everywhere naturally begs a pretty big question, right? Does this popular landscaping darling actually live up to the hype? Is it really worth dedicating precious real estate in your garden to it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to answer today. To figure this all out, we're turning to our source, an incredibly experienced gardener named Ang. Ang writes, "I've been evaluating this plant for many moons." And what I absolutely love about Ang's perspective is the sheer dedication to observation here. Ang hasn't just casually glanced at a single potted plant on a porch. No, we're talking about extensive evaluations in the front yard, out in the back, and even tracking its growth patterns while traveling, specifically keeping an eye on how it performs out in roadside landscaping. Now that is some serious botanical dedication, which for sure gives Ang some major credibility.
Section 1. Underwhelming Blooms. The Aesthetic Critique.
So let's break down the look. The flowers possess this very distinctive trumpets or funnel shape. They feature 5 slightly crinkled petals that have a really delicate, almost paper-like texture. Now, on paper, pun absolutely intended there, that sounds quite beautiful, right? Yet Ang is frankly just not very keen on them. And a huge part of this aesthetic disappointment stems from their lifespan. Each of these delicate blooms only survives for a single day. Yep, just one day. You get one brief moment of glory, and then the bloom just fades away. And this comparison perfectly illustrates the disappointment. Look, it's totally normal for some beloved garden plants to have short-lived flowers. Take the portulaca, for example. It also features blooms that only last for a single day. But here is the absolute critical difference, Ang points out. While both plants share that fleeting lifespan, the Mexican Petunia completely lacks the rich, vibrant coloration that makes the portulaca's short-lived blooms so incredibly rewarding. So with the Mexican Petunia, you get a super short show, and honestly, according to Ang, it's not even a particularly colorful one.
Section 2. The Invasiveness Myth. Expectation versus Reality.
Now, if you've ever looked up the Mexican Petunia, you've undoubtedly seen the warnings. Which brings us to a really big question. Is it actually invasive? There's this widespread rumor, it's practically a gardening legend at this point, that the Mexican Petunia is an incredibly aggressive, invasive spreader that's just going to take over your entire yard the second you turn your back on it. So, here is the reality check. Despite all those fierce warnings, Ang brings a delightfully underwhelmed observation to the table. After all those many moons of evaluation, Ang has observed absolutely zero self-propagation by seed in either the front or back gardening areas. None. Zilch. Far from being some garden-conquering monster, Ang notes that the specimens they actually planted are barely even able to sustain their own upright growth. They struggle to even stand up straight in the yard, let alone stage some sort of hostile botanical takeover.
Section 3. The Silver Lining. How to Grow It.
Okay, so if you are still looking for a highly resilient perennial, here is your blueprint. Ang notes that the Mexican Petunia is actually a fantastic choice if you need something that can effortlessly survive tropical weather. It requires incredibly minimal care, basically just surviving completely on its own, with only the occasional pruning needed just to keep it looking tidy. If you do choose to go for it, Ang provides some highly actionable advice to get the best look. First off, don't plant it solo. It's definitely best planted in a cluster. And for the absolute best foliage arrangement and display, you're going to want to group them together in a round or rectangular pot. Following these exact steps is going to give you the hardiest, best-looking arrangement possible.
Section 4. The Final Verdict.
And here we have it. After meticulously evaluating the trumpet shapes, comparing the lifespan of the blooms, thoroughly testing those invasive rumors, and figuring out the absolute perfect potting arrangement, Ang delivers this unapologetic mic drop quote. Even so, it's still not really my kind of flowering plant. You just have to appreciate the dry humor there. Spending so much time, energy, and space evaluating a plant across front yards, backyards, and road trips just to arrive at such a calm, firm, and simple dismissal. It does everything it's supposed to do as a survivor, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't capture this gardener's heart. Which leads us perfectly to the ultimate question for you. Do you prefer a resilient, low-effort survivor or a vibrant, colorful showstopper in your garden? The Mexican Petunia really represents a classic gardening trade-off. It'll survive the tropics, it won't demand your attention, and contrary to the myth, it's probably not going to aggressively take over your lawn. But it also won't give you that sustained, breathtaking splash of vibrant color. It all comes down to what you value most in your own outdoor space. I highly encourage you to head out, evaluate your own landscaping choices with the exact same critical eye Anne used, and see what truly works for you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.